What's good? We are live. What's going on, African family? Welcome back to the African Wahala. Thank you for coming through. If you get to watch this video after the live stream ends and you like the content, click on the like button, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to share the content with other people that need to be educated. What we do on this platform is to, number one, try to educate ourselves on understanding the right moves to make as it regards the progression of our people. Number two, we are trying to prefer solutions to many problems that face African people all over the world. It's not a surprise, it's not a secret that Africans have it bad, okay, for the most part. Now let's go straight into the topic of conversation. The real colonizers in Africa are our African political elites. Now, the reason why I came up with this particular topic is that there are so many people all over the world, global Africans, those from the continent, those in the diaspora, always complaining about everybody else interfering with our progress as Africans. People always complaining about the Chinese, Europeans, Americans, Russians, Lebanese, Indians, everybody. Oh, these guys are responsible for our downfall. These guys are responsible for drawing us backwards. These guys are colonizers. These guys are implementing neo-colonization. Let's call them out. It's not fair. They need to be held accountable. But one thing that we refuse to address is, how is it possible that these other people are able to come capitalize on the loopholes that exist? I'll tell you how. Our African politicians, they are responsible. Now, I'm going to start off with definitions. Let's give you guys the definition of the word colonizer, and I'm going to be sharing my screen to make this make sense. Share screen. So things are a little bit finicky sometimes, but yeah. Now let's define the word colonizer. Colonizer. Definition. Okay. According to Google, colonizer means a country that sends settlers to a place and establishes political control over it. For example, Portugal was a major colonizer in both Brazil and parts of Africa. Another definition, a person who settles among and establishes political control over the indigenous people of an area. They are, okay, example, they are among the few indigenous groups who were never converted by Catholicism, by Spanish colonizers, whatever. I'm going to go with the second definition. There is an actual third definition. Well, its second definition, it has to do with ecology, so I'm not going to go into that. But if you look at the first definition, it says a person who settles among and establishes political control over indigenous people of an area. That makes a lot of sense. Without a doubt, we've had a history of colonization. Okay. We had a time when Europeans came in, conquered us, and colonized us for a long time, until around the 50s when African countries were able to achieve independence. Prior to that, there was a call for independence amongst Africans from the diaspora, people like Marcus Garvey, in the United States. And then it somehow led to Kwame Nkrumah. And then we had independent countries in Africa between the 50s and the 60s, even up until the 90s. Now, what has changed between then and now? In all honesty, many countries have achieved a lot of improvement in their socio-economic parameters. The other thing that has changed is that the people that are in control of these countries are mostly the indigenous people, and they find themselves in political powers. Kwesi, what's up, my brother? DC, boy, African Wahala. I don't know if I can agree with you. However, a YouTube said that African leaders are mere asset managers, i.e., colonialism never went away. Yes, brother, that's why we're here to have this conversation. And feel free, man, jump in the comment section, drop whatever comments you want to drop. We can have a conversation, right? At some point, I might even put a link in the description so we can talk. But let me keep going. When the African indigenous people took over power from the Europeans, up until this point in 2021, it's been over 60 years. And we're still complaining about neo-colonization, just like my brother DC just said, that African leaders are mere managers. But I have a question. If African leaders have been political tools for the real colonization through the process of neo-colonization, then why are they African leaders? Why are they called leaders? Nobody forced them to be leaders. If anything, a lot of these guys, once they become leaders, they will do anything to remain in that position. It's only on the continent of Africa where you find an average leader remaining in power for over 20 years, 30 years, 40 years without accomplishing anything. You still find out that majority of the people in the country are living in extreme poverty, while those leaders that have forced themselves down the throats of the people are multi-billionaires. And I'll tell you guys what, Kwesi says, Africa, politically independent. What you guys talking about? Okay, let's keep going. Let's go into regions of Africa and different histories that has happened. There is a common guy, a very popular African. He's dead now, Robert Mugabe, out of Zimbabwe. I find so many Africans trying to hype this guy and present him to us as a hero. Oh, Robert Mugabe was a hero. Robert Mugabe took away the lands from the white settlers and returned it to the indigenous people of Zimbabwe, so he is a hero. He has to be reckoned with. But the question I have for people is, why did Robert Mugabe force himself down the throats of Zimbabweans for 41 years? Why was that? Go back to the definition of colonizer. A person who settles among and establishes political control over the indigenous people of an area. I'll tell you guys what. In Zimbabwe, where Robert Mugabe was the leader for 41 years, they have lots of ethnic groups. And Robert Mugabe represents one of the ethnic groups. I believe it was a Shona. I'm not too sure. So let's assume Mugabe was Shona. And there are many other ethnic groups in Zimbabwe. So the Shona man remained in power through unscrupulous means for 41 years. And during that process, majority of the people from other ethnic groups fell into poverty. Now, you guys can come out and say, yeah, it's as a result of the fact that Europeans and Americans placed sanctions on Zimbabwe. That's why Zimbabwean economy crashed. I agree. That's the truth. But once Robert Mugabe took away the lands from the white settlers, why didn't he come up with better policies to replace the vacuum that was created? Why? He's supposed to be a leader, right? Nobody forced him down the throat. Nobody forced him to be a political leader. He chose to be a leader. That's what I'm saying. And if this guy chose to be a leader, then it is his responsibility to improve the standard of living of the people that he leads. Now, if you keep on diminishing the standard of living of the people that you lead for 41 straight years, then you are a failure. There is no excuse about it. There is no, oh, yeah, he took away land from the white farmers, so yeah, he's a hero. So, what about the dead people? The people that died due to the lack of top notch medical infrastructure in Zimbabwe? The people that died out of hunger because of the economic collapse? And I'm going to remind you guys about Robert Mugabe's family real quick. One of the wives that he married eventually, Grace Mugabe, this lady was literally called Gucci Grace. You know why? Because she was flamboyant. They had a lot of money to waste. These are the types of people that they have lots of money in their bank accounts. They use infrastructure in foreign countries that have developed amenities. Meanwhile, their people in their country are suffering and living in penury. So why should I call him a hero? If truly you're a hero, a true leader, you're not supposed to die in Singapore. Robert Mugabe ended up dying in a Singaporean hospital after ruling Zimbabwe for 41 years without having any clue what to do to solve the problems. So why do you call him a hero? As far as I'm concerned, Robert Mugabe was a colonizer, period. Anybody that is not from the same ethnic group as Robert Mugabe can go along with this definition of colonizer. A person who settles amongst and establishes political control over the indigenous people of an area. That's exactly what Robert Mugabe did to the, let's look for the other ethnic groups in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe ethnic groups. Oh, perfect. So let's assume I am a vendor. I'm just going to expand the screen here real quick so you can see what I'm looking at. Expand, history, zoom. Yes. So Ndebele, yes, that is a popular ethnic group in Zimbabwe. If I was an Ndebele, okay, I was born in 1982. Robert Mugabe became the president around 1981, I believe. When Mugabe passed away, I was living in extreme poverty because the economy of Zimbabwe had collapsed. Keep in mind, Mugabe is from another ethnic group. He's not an Ndebele. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, correct me. Let's assume Mugabe is not Ndebele because I'm not too sure what he was. I am an Ndebele and I'm living in extreme poverty at the time that Mugabe passed away. And Mugabe was a multi-millionaire as well as his wife. They flew around in private jets. They did not even use the hospitals in Zimbabwe that were already destroyed because of the collapse of the economy. They used hospitals in Singapore. And then you expect me to refer to Mugabe as my hero? That's insane. Let's go to the comment section real quick. So DC says here that in 60 years of so-called independence, what have these leaders achieved? Their feather my nest mentality and the lack of pride, love, and profess is disgusting and criminal. Absolutely, man. Colonizers come in all colors, including ours. Mr. Uganda, I actually got inspired while I was on your live stream this morning. I heard about the topic you were talking about, and that's why I got inspired to make this live stream. Because to me, it's crazy when people are always pointing their fingers at everybody else for their problems and not realizing that the root cause of the problems lies with us eventually. Ultimately, it lies with us. I understand neo-colonialism still exists. Neo-colonialism. It does exist everywhere. But why does it still exist after 60 years of independence? That's what I can't understand. It's unacceptable and it's inexcusable. DC says, Take the wealth of Nigeria with crude oil. Every Nigerian should be a millionaire. Exactly. But guess what, bro? We once had a military head of state named Sani Abacha. This guy stole $5 billion. He died in 1998. And till this day, in 2021, that is about 24, 23 years later, different countries from all over the world, Switzerland, England, Germany, they send money back to Nigeria year after year that, oh, we have some recovered Sani Abacha loot. We're trying to return it to Nigeria. Without a doubt, that money that Abacha stole and stashed in many European countries has yielded interest in those countries. And then they return the principal that was stolen by Sani Abacha back to Nigeria. So guess what? We lose in both ways. We lose in the fact that right now the value of the currency has depreciated, and we've lost the interest that could have been occurred during that period. Also, most importantly, all that money that just that one individual stole could have built multiple hospitals that would have saved lots of lives, could have built good healthcare infrastructure so that by now in 2021 Nigeria can be boasting of having emergency medical services because we don't have any. That's why I say our African leaders are the colonizers. Zimbabwe collapsed because of sanctions placed on them. Without a doubt. Yeah. The sanctions were placed on Zimbabwe partly due to the fact that Robert Mugabe took away lands from settlers and returned those lands to the indigenous people. But what Robert Mugabe refused to do during that time was to um, fill in the vacuum that was created. Okay, you took away land from people that were in control of the agricultural industry. These people were mass producing food for the millions of people in Zimbabwe. It wasn't a fair process, in all honesty. It was ridiculous because you can't have foreigners in your own land controlling your economy and living a good life while you're living penury. I totally agree. But then Robert Mugabe, due to the fact that he is egotistical, just like majority of these African leaders. If you guys heard recently, Nigeria banned Twitter and they're still going to ban more things. The president of Nigeria put out a tweet that was deleted by Twitter because it violated Twitter rules. And for that reason, the egotistic nature of Buhari, the Nigerian president, came out and he decided to ban Twitter that serves a country of 200 million people. So I say all of that to say this. A lot of these guys, once they get into political power, okay, once they get into political power, they try to establish control over the indigenous people because they are colonizers. That's all I'm saying. They are absolute colonizers, period. There's a reason they call Mugabe the bulldozer. He would trample on anything in his way, including his own. Yeah, he trampled on everything except the fact that he was a multi-billionaire. His wife was called Gucci Grace, and he passed away in a Singaporean hospital. So I have no respect for him. He's a colonizer. Now let's go to another country. I'm tired of cooking on Zimbabwe. So before Zimbabweans that worship this individual start getting upset. I mean, you can get upset. I'm only going to tell you how I feel about it. And I want you to think deeply. I need you to start thinking outside the box. Like my brother, Mr. Uganda, said earlier in his live stream, he said, people have a like a dual way of thinking. It's either black or white. So whenever the word colonizer comes to the mind of an average African, I would say, they think about Europeans, forgetting the fact that we have colonizers amongst us that are destroying us on a daily basis. Okay. Like the brother said earlier, he said, DC, he said, how come Nigeria has so much oil wealth and all Nigerians are not multimillionaires? Because we've had colonizers upon colonizers upon colonizers that have done absolutely nothing but steal the wealth for themselves at the expense of the millions of Nigerians. That's all it is. Let's go to Libya. Gaddafi. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull out a an ethnic group that I know about. The Tubu ethnic group out of North Central Africa. So the Tubus, okay, or the Tubu, meaning the rock people, are an ethnic group inhabiting northern Chad, southern Libya, northeast Niger, and southwest Sudan and Libya. Anyways, last time I checked, the population of Tubus in Libya was about 500,000 people, a huge ethnic group. I talk about Tubu to explain the situation with Gaddafi in Libya. Gaddafi passed away. He was killed by French and American airstrikes after months of protest by the people of Libya to get him out of office. He was also in office for 40 something years. He was a colonizer, Gaddafi. But you find a lot of so-called Black Africans, especially, running around saying, "Oh yeah, the West killed Gaddafi because he was trying to implement a single currency for the continent of Africa because he loved Africa dearly. The West is evil. The West is evil for killing Gaddafi. Gaddafi was my hero." But I need to ask you a question. Go do your research on the people of Tubu, okay, the Tubu ethnic group out of Libya. Find out how they reacted when Gaddafi was killed. If you are a Black African, I'm not talking about you, an Arab African. I have no hatred for you, by the way. A lot of Arab Africans were also celebrating the death of Gaddafi, by the way. But the Tubus in particular, I'll tell you guys what. First and foremost, they had been marginalized for the longest time and pushed deep down into the desert, south. Okay, so you find the Tubus. Once you cross the border north of Chad into Libya, that's their dominance, their domain in the middle of the desert. Children, women, thousands of Tubus. Before the Tubu ethnic group Libyan could move to Tripoli, he needed a pass. They weren't granted citizenship. They weren't given equal rights as Libyans, even though they are indigenous Libyans. Now tell me, why should you, a Black African that saw how Gaddafi treated the Tubu ethnic group, still consider Gaddafi as your hero? He was a colonizer. As far as the Tubu is concerned, if I'm viewing this situation from the Tubu's perspective, Gaddafi was a colonizer. So I just don't get it. Now let me go back to other countries. You go to many other African countries currently existing. I can think about Gabon, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Uganda, even Rwanda to an extent, many African countries, Rwanda, Nigeria. We all have leaders, politicians that are colonizers. That's what they are. Because once they get into power, they will do anything to remain in power, even if that involves them being puppets to the United States, Europe, China, Russia, because they will do anything to be on the favorable side of those world powers so that they can remain in power. And in the process of doing that, they are only trying to achieve political control. But that entire dynamic has a negative impact on the economic lifestyle of the people. Point blank and period. So these guys are the funnel for neo-colonialism. When we blame Europeans and Americans and Chinese and Lebanese and everybody else for our problems, forgetting the fact that they have to collaborate with our own indigenous leaders, then we're not addressing the issue in full. We're not. So it's important for us to understand that our political leaders, especially those reckless, greedy ones that refuse to step down when their tenure is over, those ones that will do anything, including rigging elections, hiring their personal friends into the um, independent national electoral commissions as the leaders, so that that guarantees their them winning the next elections and stuff like that. It only proves to you guys that they are the colonizers. The African leaders are the real colonizers. Okay. So many examples, like I said earlier. I can keep going. I can keep giving you guys examples upon examples, but this is just food for thought. Think about it and come to a realization that the real colonizers, the people that make neocolonialism possible, are the African leaders. The people that have put us in this position till this day are the African leaders. Now, before I round up this live stream, I'm going to give you guys an example using Nigeria, because I am very, very familiar with Nigeria, being a Nigerian myself. We currently have Buhari as the president. He's an extremely terrible leader. Extremely. We always thought Sani Abacha was the worst leader in the history of Nigeria, but it seems like Buhari is beginning to match up with Sani Abacha. Now, how did a guy like Buhari become the president of Nigeria? How is it possible that someone that is uneducated, someone that was involved in a military coup in the past, someone that has a very shady history, he doesn't have any records of maybe he had a business venture that blossomed, or he has some sort of experience that makes it possible for him to steer a country of 200 million people towards the right direction. He has none of that, but this guy became the president. How did that happen? Do not be deceived for once thinking that Nigerians voted Buhari in. They voted him in 2015, no doubt. But in 2019, Buhari was not voted in. He was rigged into power. The system, Buhari is not the only problem of Nigeria. The Nigerian system in itself is a problem. And that problem originated from coups, military coups, and military counter coups that ended up destroying all the major institutions that are responsible for checking and balancing powers. So over time, it almost became impossible for people to be held accountable for crimes that they commit, especially once you have political powers. That's why we are where we are today. Okay? That's why a guy like Buhari can ban Twitter, and the only noise that we can make is protest. While you're protesting, people are getting killed because the police and the military, they are used by the leaders to kill the people for protesting, asking for a better country. That's why the system is that way. But the truth is, we don't have a choice. We have to continue speaking up and holding these people accountable until we get what we want. We're not going to stop, because the only other option is to continue living like slaves to these colonizers. That's it. So we don't have a choice. We have to continue fighting for it. Let me go back to the comment section. Sorry. I can't believe people were defending Buhari, including that minister. It's crazy, bro. Oh my goodness. I might have missed some comments earlier. PTTDS family, investing out the blue. Greetings to you, brother. Peace and blessings. Investing. Peace, Mr. Uganda. Investing. Greetings. Mr. Uganda says, there is a reason they call Mugabe the bulldozer. He would have trampled on anything in his way, including his own. I don't think it was much as a bulldozer. I don't think it was as effective as a bulldozer as John Magufuli of Tanzania was in the short time that Magufuli was there. Mugabe had a long opportunity, 41 years, and guess what he did? He impoverished the people of Zimbabwe. Don't tell me it's the sanctions. Don't tell me it's America and England that are responsible for impoverishing the people of Zimbabwe. Mugabe is responsible because he was their leader. Mr. Uganda says here that I can't believe people were defending Buhari, including that minister. Bro, there are so many ministers that are extremely shady, and this is exactly what I was talking about just now. The system in Nigeria allows corrupt criminals to be in leadership positions, and we can't hold them accountable. It's slowly changing, and that's why you can see them fighting back using force, banning Twitter, snatching away our freedom of rights. I mean, our freedoms of expression, freedoms of movement, and freedoms of association, which are all inside the fake constitution. Okay. But they're taking away those rights because they realize that the fact that we keep on trying to speak up through social media, it's putting so much pressure on them. It's exposing them. These guys would rather they would rather pretend like they have some sort of a beautiful situation going on and sweep all the dirt under the carpet. They try to portray a positive image to the rest of the world, forgetting the fact that millions of people are actually suffering. And that's why, Mr. Uganda, the last live stream that we had on the African Millennial Show, and I was debating with 2Niger, I got extremely irritated with that guy because he just reminds me of these African politicians. He reminds me of Buhari. This guy basically told me that forget about the people dying. People die. It's normal for people to be victims of terrorism. Forget about it. I'm going to teach you how to react to your people dying from terrorism. Don't talk about breaking up Nigeria. Talk about something else. Like, what the hell is he? You don't teach me how to grieve when my people are dying, getting killed. You don't teach me how to respond, okay, when I am almost a potential victim of terrorism. You don't teach me that. Once you try to do that, I've already lost respect for you, and I'm not even going to try to have a conversation with you. So I'm usually not that type of person that yells at people and gets angry, but if you try to be a colonizer like 2Niger was, then sorry, I can't have any respect for you. Do you have a WhatsApp I can text you at? Grim. Mom. Send me an email. Let me put it in the comment section. africanwahala@gmail.com. I'll respond immediately. Mr. Uganda says a lot of people think in binaries. That's the word I was looking for. Binary. To their detriment. We have to think outside the box. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Whenever people hear the word colonizer, they think about Chinese and Europeans, forgetting about their leaders. Let me ask you guys a question. If you guys ever heard about Ali Bongo, the president of Gabon, another colonizer, this guy literally cannot walk by himself. He has a stroke. He's physically unhealthy to be the president of a country. And I'm pretty sure he's mentally incapacitated as well. But in all that sickness, he remains the president. Besides that, he was handed over power by his father that passed away around 2009, I believe. So once Ali Bongo's father, that was the president for 37 years, no, 43 years. This is a joke, man. Ali Bongo's father, Omar Bongo, was the president of Gabon for 43 years. And then once he passed away, his son took over power since 2009. That guy has been in power for 10 years. And he's physically and mentally incapable of ruling that country, of making that country move towards reasonable progress. But guess what? He is still in power. And I was talking about the definition of colonizer back in the beginning of the live stream. A colonizer is a person who settles among and establishes political control over the indigenous people of an area. So you tell me if that definition does not match Ali Bongo and the family. They've turned Gabon into a monarch system, into their private property. Same thing is happening in Togo with the Yansigbes. The Yansigbes, father passed power down to the son after being in power for 30-something years. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And these are the same countries where you find that majority of the people are not able to maximize their potentials due to bad policies, lack of development, lack of infrastructure. They don't have access to basic amenities. Then why are you in power? If you're going to be in power for so long, you've amassed so much wealth, you're extremely rich, You're a multi-billionaire. Are you not a colonizer? When the Europeans were around colonizing Africa, guess what they were doing? They were taking the resources out of Africa, sending some back to Europe to develop Europe, and then Europe became extremely rich in the process because they were colonizers, right? So when the Africans are doing the same thing by coming into power, using force through military, police, and imported guns from Europe and America to subdue the people, amass wealth for themselves and their affiliates, isn't that the same definition as colonization, as colonizer? I think it's the same thing. Mugabe gave the Muzungu a bloody nose and they made Zimbabweans pay the price. They systematically destroyed the economy. Well, I agree with you here, but at the same time, if you think about the fact that you don't have to always rely on the Muzungus, why can't we rely on ourselves? When the Muzungus placed the sanctions against Zimbabwe, that could have been a great opportunity if in general we had decent leaders in many African countries that were economically independent to a large degree. That would have been an opportunity for those powerful countries to lend a helping hand to Zimbabwe. But all these guys all had the same mentality. I believe there is a strong connection to the mentality because it's not a coincidence that a lot of these African countries had incapable leaders. It's not a coincidence. It's something about the mentality. I also understand that at the end of colonization, around the late 50s, early 60s, when majority of the African countries started gaining independence, what had happened was that majority of the people were not educated enough to lead and control key institutions in the country. For example, in Botswana, when Seretse became the first president of Botswana, there were only 30 university educated Botswanans. So it wasn't possible for Botswanans to be in full control of a working system in the country. Same thing happened in Congo when Patrice Lumumba was killed by the collaboration of foreigners and local people, Mobutu Sese Seko. There was a very tiny fraction of Congolese people that were educated enough to control key institutions in that country. So yeah, the education factor comes in because during the time of European colonization, a lot of the local indigenous Africans were not really given opportunities to develop themselves. And for that reason, it was impossible for them to think properly if they ever got an opportunity to be in power. I'll give you guys an example with Nigeria. So when the first guys became democratically elected leaders in Nigeria in 1960, I'm talking about the first prime minister that was can't remember his name, first premiers of the North, South, West, and Eastern regions, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Yakubu Gowon, and Obafemi Awolowo. When those guys were in power, okay, there was a military coup staged 6 years later in 1966. And that military coup was staged by a bunch of 28-year-olds, 29-year-old young guys that were in control of the military infrastructure throughout the entire country. These guys realized that, man, we have the guns, we have the weapons to depose these democratically elected leaders. And for that reason, we can go do that and we're going to be the ones in control. And that was exactly what happened. So these young boys went up there, staged bloody coups, took over power of the country, destroyed the constitution, destroyed the federal system, and turned it into a unitary system. And then that first coup gave birth to many more coups, successive coups. The first coup was kind of tribal, according to them. And then there was a counter coup by some other military guys from another tribal group. Are you seeing how this whole thing plays into? It's crazy, man. Listen, when the first guys took over power during the first coup, they made a lot of money. And then there was a counter coup. The guys that took over in the counter coup, they also made a lot of money Because, like I said earlier, these were the people in control of an entire country that had millions of people, natural resources. They were the ones welcoming foreign investors that came into the country to do business. They had access to money and they became extremely corrupt up until the point where we are today. We are in the Fourth Republic. The Fourth Republic started in 1999. And between 1960 and 1999, it was nothing but bloody coups after bloody coups, plus destruction of key institutions. The judiciary literally has no power over the legislative. The executive cannot be checkmated by the judiciary. They are supposed to be independent institutions, but right now they are all the same. They all work for one another. So you tell me how such a system can ever survive? It's never going to survive. To make matters worse, if in the future we decide, okay, let's go back to the 1963 Constitution, because that Constitution gave autonomous powers to individual regions. Let's go back to that Constitution. What is the guarantee that there will not be another military coup in the near future that will trash out the new Constitution? What is the guarantee? And just so you guys know, we are already at war in Nigeria. Okay, it's an undeclared war. That's why every time, if you ever do some intricate research in Nigeria, you're going to find out that tons of people are getting killed every day, every single day. Okay, because a war has already begun. It's not affecting everybody. You're still going to find many Nigerians living their normal lives, going about their businesses, because the war hasn't gotten to them. And it's the same thing, even in Syria, Libya, countries that are actually going through real civil wars. There are many people that are not touched by those wars. They are still living their normal lives like there is nothing happening in those countries. It's the same thing happening in Nigeria. But just so you know, a war already begun in Nigeria, and hopefully it doesn't turn out to become a full-blown destructive war. Number one. Number two, hopefully after this current situation we are going through, we are going to be able to find a long-lasting solution to the problems of the country. And that solution is the destruction of that system that makes it possible for criminals to be ministers, for terrorists to hold ministerial positions, for thieves, past convicted criminals, to be ministers in the country, for a lifeless, uneducated human being that does not care about the citizens himself or anything to be the president of a country. Hopefully that's what we're going to be able to achieve. I would prefer the breakup of Nigeria. I want Nigeria to be gone. I no longer want to be a Nigerian, because I can clearly see that violence that has been going on in Northeast, North Central, Northwest, Middle Belt has finally crept to Southwest Nigeria, where I'm from. Okay, it's been going on for like 10 years. We in the Southwest, we're always like, man, we feel so sorry for these people, man. Oh, too bad. Oh, Boko Haram is killing these people. Guess what? It's here now. It's in the Southwest. And that's why I support the absolute breakup of Nigeria. Let the Yoruba people go, so that we have a chance at protecting our people. We have a chance at stopping the spread of terrorism, because the current dynamics of Nigeria makes it illegal for you to try to protect yourself. You will get arrested for trying to protect yourself. Okay, that is the current dynamic of Nigeria, and that's why we no longer want to be a part of Nigeria. Mr. Uganda, weren't the Tubu oppressed under Gaddafi? They were absolutely, completely destroyed. I'm going to look for a video and post it in the description of this live stream once I'm done, so you can watch a documentary on the Tubus. I agree, Sani Abacha was a monster. He was an absolute monster, man, a killer, right? They romanticize Gaddafi more than actual Libyans. My Libyan friend said he was a horrible man and that he is overhyped by people in the West. Same as was with Idi Amin. I mean, we're just crazy. See, we've lost our minds, man. We've been beaten up by this world so bad that we no longer even know who the true enemies are. We're just looking for anybody to point fingers at. We're looking for anybody to say, oh, you're the reason why my life is this way. And the easiest target, as far as I'm concerned, is people that we can't even do anything about. The Europeans, the Americans, the Chinese. They are the world powers. These people are the world powers. Look at a country like Nigeria, the fake giant of Africa, a fake, disgraceful giant of Africa. That's what Nigeria is. If Nigeria was truly the giant of Africa, we should have been able to pull up countries around us, the Cameroons, Togo, Benin, Ghana. We should all be rising to the top together. But guess what? Because we are the fake giant of Africa, that is not possible. Nigeria relies on everybody, China, United States, Europe, for AIDS every single year. These guys are always coming through. Oh, can we give you guys a loan of, $5 billion so you can build this railway infrastructure for your people? Oh, give us the loan. The colonizer leaders in Nigeria will tell them, oh, give us that loan. Guess what? The currency is depreciating. When I was a kid, the value, it's crazy because when I was a kid, my parents, uncles, grandparents will tell us that, man, the value of the naira was 1 naira to 1 pound, British pound, in the 70s. When I was a kid in the early 90s, the value of the naira was 1 naira to $50, $1 to 50 naira. And we were like, man, the naira is destroying, man. What's happening, man? These guys are destroying the currency. That was when Babangida was the head of state, military head of state, and then he handed over power to Sani Abacha. Those guys destroyed the country. Right now, the value of the naira is 500 to $1. It's been consistently going down. So you're telling me to continue holding on to a nose diving aircraft? Nah, man. Yeah, Ali Sosa, African Wahala, gmail.com. Tubu, yes. Yeah, I got it wrong. It was actually Magufuli who was called Bulldozer, not Mugabe. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. This guy says, fuck Buhari. Man, my good brother, man, Esosa, that name sounds Nigerian. I'll tell you what, man. Yeah, I absolutely agree. F Buhari, without a doubt. But Buhari is not even the main problem. Nigeria itself is the problem. Nigeria, the system of Nigeria produces criminals like Buhari to become the president. So it's not even about Buhari. If we get rid of Buhari today, and in 2023 elections, we put Jesus Christ to be the president of Nigeria, it's still going to crash. Nothing can be done about it until we destroy that system that makes it possible for nothing to work, period. Yeah, Tuna just sounded insensitive. It's just a Buhari replica as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Ali Bongo doesn't seem mentally available. Bo Diddley, what's up, my brother? Trying to talk with Tunaija is extremely frustrating to say the least. Man, that guy, that was the first time I was seeing him. I just got agitated, man. He got on my nerves so bad. Mr. Uganda says Libya had the strongest currency in Africa and it had one of the best economies. He single-handedly funded the AU. Well, I have nothing to say about that for now. Nepotism should not be allowed. Well, true. Nepotism should never be allowed because what that basically means is I will hire you into this position because you are my family member or because you are from the same ethnic group as me, not because you have the merits, the educational qualifications or work experience to work in this role, but I'm going to hire you because I know you. That is the system that Nigeria produces. And I'm sure it's the same in many other African countries. So do not be surprised if you hired someone because you knew him into a position in your private company. Okay, and you did the same thing with all the positions. Is it safe to assume that that company is not going to make profits because you've hired a bunch of incompetent people to manage those positions, right? Now, let's use that same analogy, compare that to a country. You hire people based on the fact that they are from the same ethnic group as you because you've known them for a long time, not based on their educational experience, work experience, not based on what they know, not what they bring to the table, but based on the fact that you know them. That's why you hire these people into those positions. Ministers, senators. I know they talk about, oh, senators are elected. It's all fake. Okay, it's all fake. If it was real that elections really did work, I'll use Nigeria as an example, and I'm going to use Uganda as an example. If elections really did work, why did Tinubu, the former Lagos state governor, handpick his successor? Why was that the case? Why was Obasanjo, the former president of Nigeria, able to handpick his successor, Yaradua? Because the electoral system is a fraud. Let's go to Uganda, same thing. You have Museveni. This guy robbed Uganda in broad daylight in 2021 January elections. Guess what? The AU, African Union, they supported him. They said, no, there was nothing wrong with the elections. Museveni did right. The electoral process was good. No problem. Same thing with the East African Community Bloc, made up of 6 countries. They said the exact same thing. Oh, we found no problems in this electoral process. It's followed all recommended guidelines. It was a legal process. But the rest of the world knew that it was fake. You don't shut down the internet days before the elections. Meanwhile, Robert Kyagulanyi is constantly posting the real thing for us to see. And I'm not saying Kyagulanyi is an angel. Don't get it twisted for 1 second. I'm not saying Robert Kyagulanyi is an angel. As a matter of fact, there is a possibility that if Kyagulanyi got into the position of power, he could change. There is that possibility because that was the same thing that Museveni did. He was promising everybody, once I get into power, we're going to change this country. Everybody's going to be good. And then he got into power and became a monster. Okay. For Robert Kyagulanyi, it would have been better to have him there than this guy that has guaranteed shown us that he has no clue what to do to improve the lives of Ugandan people. The only thing that he knows how to do is to make himself a multi-millionaire, prepare his son, a fake general, Muhoozi, to take over power from him, because that's exactly what is going on in Uganda. So these guys are colonizers, point blank and period. Okay. And they need to be held accountable. We need to keep on speaking up against them. I understand people are afraid. You know, whenever you go out there to protest, these criminals bring out their police, their soldiers, they shoot people, kill people because they have no respect for human life. They have no integrity. They have no fear of nothing. They are just irredeemable criminals. That's what they are. But they can't kill everybody. And that's one secret that we have learned in Nigeria. 200 million people, slaves to 50,000 people. Nah, it's not going to hold on for too long. At some point, we're going to break free. It's just unfortunate that it's happening through violence, because violence is the only language that those criminals understand. They don't understand anything else. Okay. But it is what it is. They are colonizers. Nepotism should not be allowed. Yes, it's gone downhill. Same thing. They even put the stolen money in their banks. Absolutely. That's D. Francis. D. Francis also said, Mugabe was a traitor in my view. He should have not signed no deal or treaty with them. All should go. I can't even have respect for Mugabe because he died in Singapore. Just let that sink in, bro. Like, if anything, you can choose to love Mugabe all you want, but the fact that this coward died in Singapore after being the president for 41 years, are you telling me that in 41 years, there is no good hospital that you can trust your health in Zimbabwe? Meanwhile, millions of Zimbabweans have no access to top-notch medical amenities. So yeah, Mugabe can get the fuck out of here. By Gaddafi was a good man, and Idi Amin kicked out Indians and wanted the economy for Africans only. I know he did some bad, but he did a lot of good. How about you call out white people instead? Perfect. These are the types of Africans that I'm talking about. Dark green. Yeah, dark green is the perfect example, yeah, of the Africans that I'm talking about. So your problem is white people, Mr. Dark green. Let me assume you're African. It's possible dark green is not even African because we all have different perspective. If dark green is an African from the diaspora, maybe a Black American that identifies with Africa, you might have a different perspective because you live in the epicenter of white supremacy. So your primary problems is white supremacy. For me, an African from the continent of Africa, my primary problem is not white supremacy. Sorry. My primary problem is the terrorist criminal politicians that work hand in hand with white supremacists to keep themselves in political positions because they are colonizers. A person who settles amongst and establishes political control over the indigenous people of an area. Yes, those are my problems, not so-called white people. This guy, this is the type of guy, this dark rain kind of guy, he's the type of person that would hype Idi Amin like he just did here. He's hyping Idi Amin. Oh yeah, Idi Amin kicked out the Indians. Yeah, he's my hero. What about the Ugandans that Idi Amin kicked out? Ask this fool, Dark Rain, this moron Dark Rain. What about the Zimbabweans that Robert Mugabe kicked out of Rwanda? What about the genocide that Mugabe committed in Rwanda, in Zimbabwe? Mugabe committed a genocide in Zimbabwe. What about that ethnic cleansing? Talk about that. Those victims of the ethnic cleansing, do you think they give a damn about white supremacy or they give a damn about Robert Mugabe? Yeah, man. Bye. Oh, perfect. He told me bye first. Yeah, bye-bye, Dark Rain. Dark Rain, stop centralizing white people. He's crazy. Fired, go burn them. So, sir, my Niger bro. A Nigerian on Twitter said, we have adapted and adjusted until oppression became the norm. Do you agree? Yes. Man, I've been here for 57 minutes. Okay, I'm going to be here for 3 more minutes, 1 hour, and I'm done. Let me explain why that tweet makes a lot of sense. We have adapted and adjusted until oppression became the norm. So, you see, we Nigerians, and I'm sure it's the same for most other Africans, we're extremely resilient in terms of being able to adapt to whatever you throw at us. As a matter of fact, Nigerians are the types of people that we are so used to being oppressed that we are thankful whenever these criminal politicians do something. For example, there is a common phrase in Nigeria, up NEPA, UPNEPA. NEPA is the electricity providing company of Nigeria. They've changed it now to PHCN. Nigerians would scream, up NEPA, whenever light came on. Because I'm pretty sure you all know that when it comes to electricity supply, Nigeria is probably one of the worst in the entire world. So whenever these criminals decide to give us electricity that we deserve, we are praising them. Up NEPA, up NEPA. Same thing happens with the criminal terrorist politicians. Whenever these guys get into power, before they get into power, they will say, I'm going to build roads, I'm going to build schools. And then they get into power. They don't build roads, they don't build schools, they become multi-billionaires. And towards the end of their tenure, they build a rubbish road, a low quality, low grade infrastructure. And then they come out to commission that infrastructure, okay? And then Nigerians are celebrating. Oh, thank you, Mr. Politician. God bless you. May God be with you. Sir, may God honor you. Nigerian politicians would make promises and they would fail on the promises. And when it's time to hold them accountable, they're going to tell you, you see, my people, God will help you, okay? Let's just pray to God to help us build these roads and help us build the hospitals so that people won't be dying. Did we elect God? Why should I ask God to help me do what you were elected to do? So that is one brainwashing tool that they've used upon us, okay? We have adapted and adjusted to until oppression became the norm. We've adjusted to not having electricity, not having basic amenities. An average Nigerian, if you're trying to build a house, you put it among your budget. In your budget, I'm going to buy a generator to provide electricity for myself. I'm going to have to dig a borehole so I can have water in my house. I'm going to have to buy electric wire gauzes, put it on my roof, on my what's it called, on my fence, so that I provide extra security for myself. These are the things that are the responsibility of the government that the people have taken upon themselves for the longest time. Now they've put the cherry on top, which is terrorism. In the case of terrorism, it's almost impossible for you to defend yourself because you need big guns and big weapons, and you need education to teach the people committing those terrorist acts that what they are doing is not correct, because they genuinely believe that me killing these people is right because they are infidels. That's what they think. So until they brought this recent oppression, there has been many cases of many eras of oppression in the past. But this time around, being 2021, during the age of social media, many people have more access to information. Many more people have an opportunity to express themselves to the rest of the world through social media. It's impossible to bring a 1995 style oppression in 2021 and think people are not going to push back. So that's exactly what is happening right now. Dark Rain, I'm not even reading your shit. Dark Rain, your viewpoint is myopic. Thank you. Let him know. Neil Payne says, Mr. Uganda, remember the Zimbabwean who denied that Mugabe committed ethnic cleansing when South Africans raised it? I can pull it up. I've actually read that story. Okay, Mugabe committed an ethnic cleansing. It was called the Karundi. It's some Southern African word. It's hard to remember right now, but he did commit an ethnic cleansing. And yes, this willful ignorance is truly a sickness. For whatever reason, the Pan-Africans want us to be blind to wrongdoings of their idols. I can't even engage with them anymore. Facts. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm signing out right now. I just wanted to come through. I didn't even plan to be here longer than 30 minutes, but it's an hour and it's time for me to sign out. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button. Dark Rain, smash the dislike button. Please, I need it. Smash the dislike button, Dark Rain. Everybody else can smash the like button unless you disagree with what I'm saying. And subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends, family, anybody that needs to be educated. Peace and blessings to everybody. Salute.